get your latest updates, please subscribe, hit like, and make sure you leave your comments in the box below. Love to hear back from you.
Hi folks, this is Santosh Iyer, your host at RunYogi Diaries. Welcome to another episode. This is our first episode in 2021, so wish you all a fantastic, stupendous, adventurous new year. Wish you all the health and hope the pandemic is behind us in 2021 and we can all get to do what we want. Today's episode is different. I have a guest who's been on the show earlier to come on again, but for a change, he is going to do the interview. And yours truly gets to be on the hot seat. So when Santosh, my dear friend and also a guest in the past, asked me to do this, I was a little hesitant in the beginning, but I thought it's important to share my why. I started my journey in 2007 with a half marathon and went on to do multiple marathons after that. So we get to talk about how it all started, how running has been a part of my life, how did marathons get into my life, pivoting into trails, bicycling, and how did it evolve into something that involves community. Most importantly, how running and my own pursuit for higher consciousness is connected. So hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's dig in. Welcome to RunYogi Diaries, Santosh.
Hey, thank you, Santosh. I know that I was the guest the last time, but let's do a role reversal today, shall we?
It's all yours.
So by public demand, we today have our professional host, Santosh Kumar, occupying the hot seat. It was, I've been fairly insistent with him that while he explores other people's stories and gives them a platform to share what drives them, it will be really interesting for all of us to know what drives our creator-in-chief. So Santosh, if you're if you're ready for the interrogation, maybe begin.
Yeah. It's a nice way of saying, hey, it's our turn to interrogate you. You've been doing this for too long. You've been having too much fun.
Exactly. So I'm sure the audience will bear with me. I'm no professional, host, but I'll do my best. So here we go. So Santosh, ever since I've known you, it's been close to 15 years, well, 13 years now, 2007, if I'm not wrong. I've always known you as a runner, somebody who is fitness conscious, and even the first time we started running, you had already done several laps around the lake. So when did this all start? I mean, is fitness something that you always valued as a child? Did you ever run in your school days? Throw some light on that for us.
Yeah. Thanks, Santosh. Thanks, Santosh, first of all, for offering to do this. And I was a little uncomfortable, kind of felt weird, talking about myself on my own channel, but appreciate it. I do want to take the opportunity to share my story and why I do what I do. So yeah, coming back to your question. I've been an active. I had an active childhood. Not running, not athletics so much, but more field hockey. And field hockey was a lot, and field hockey was a lot of running. So I used to love to run from end to end. I was not the best dribbler. I used to play center forward. They were better dribblers, but I was a captain of the school team, but I used to love running across the field. And then, of course, it was cricket. I did play cricket at school, for the school, and also for some leagues, amateur leagues in Bangalore. And I used to love medium fast bowling. And my icons when I grew up was people like Michael Holding, who I don't know if you remember, used to have a run up right. And he was such a beautiful athlete. You could watch him run from the end of the boundary up to the wicket. And I used to love cricket only for that. And of course, Kapil Dev and Imran Khan, they were great athletes, And so because of that, I used to also bowl a little bit. And I used to love the part of running in the bowling aspect. And so, yeah, so running in that way has been an indirect presence in life. And so that's how I guess childhood was. And then, of course, we all go to college, and I'm a I'm a party hard, play hard kind of a guy. I've done all kinds of stuff, drink, smoke, whatever, right? In college, and then you have good metabolism, so you survive. Food is bad in hostels, so you don't put on weight. And then, of course, I started working and lived at home, and my mom started feeding me very great food again, because I lived with parents. Then I started work in Bangalore, started putting on weight. And anyway, long story short, um, I think late 20s, I had put on a lot of weight, big stomach, and was not beginning to enjoy the way I felt and looked. And that was when I did a seminar of a transformational seminar, and I put this at stake. And that's when I started my weight loss effort. And I started with going to dance aerobics back in late 90s in Bangalore, where we lived at that point. And there was this guy from one of our batchmates from BMS. I didn't study in BMS engineering, but someone I knew started an aerobic studio. And it was in KCA Stadium. We used to go early morning. A lot of good-looking people of all genders used to be there. So it was a good motivation for me and my brother-in-law. Actually, he started the project, and I joined him. And we used to go early morning, dance aerobics. Lost a ton of weight, and that gave me hope that yes, it's possible. Because I was at a point where I was resigned, because I'm putting on weight at getting close to 30 years old, and people at that point used to say, "Yeah, you're 30, like you're old now, right? You have." And those days, it was okay to look, with big stomach and whatever. It was acceptable, and somehow it didn't feel right. And when I lost this weight, because there was a nutritionist in the studio and they put us on a strict diet, that gave hope. So that was like then. And then, of course, life takes again, came to US again, got complacent and back to gaining weight and being unhealthy and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's the in a nutshell the background, at least personally for me, in the area of fitness.
No, thanks. Thanks for throwing light on that. And what I find interesting is that most people either have, hey, I was always a runner since childhood, and I used to sprint before, but as I grew older, I became a distance runner. There's that kind of people, and there's the kind of people that say, hey, I've been fat and I got to lose weight at some point. And you have an interesting blend of both. I mean, you had sports in your childhood. I do remember the fluid running actions of Michael Holding and others, and I can imagine how that can be inspirational. And the other part of the journey, which I can totally relate to, which is hey, I need to get fitter and all of that. So thank you for sharing that, and congratulations on keeping it up for the amount of time that you have. It's been, I guess, a 20-year fitness journey, so that's awesome. Now, at some point, you switched from running to keep fit to running serious distances, right? I mean, I remember when we started running as a group, a half marathon was a bold, audacious idea. And then a couple of months later, I find you signing up for a full marathon, Little Rock, if I remember right. So can you share, what caused that, your motivations for that, any influences that made you go in that direction?
Yeah, so it was accidental, right? So 2007, the FedEx biggest challenge losers, you guys were up to that. And I was just casually running, or at least pretending to run a couple of miles around that Lake Collierville, right, the Collierville Park. And I used to barely manage 2 miles, and I never could survive beyond that. And then we met, saw you guys doing your stuff, and we collaborated, and we started kind of running more. And it was fun because there was company, and that made a huge difference, because you tend to not feel so tired, or it doesn't get as demanding mentally. And then I think it was your idea, if I remember. You said, hey, why don't we do the half marathon? It was, I think, your suggestion, and we all jumped at it. And we started training for it. We did the half marathon, and I loved it, because I think at the end of the half marathon, I didn't feel wasted. I felt like I had some more energy left in the tank, right? And it wasn't a bad half marathon. I think it was a sub 2. It was like 151 or 153, which surprised me as well because I'm a mid-pack runner. I didn't know then, of course, that what a mid-pack runner was, but I am realized today that I'm a mid-pack runner, and I'm happy with that. So it was about 153 or something, and people said, "Oh, that's good pace." And I was like, "Oh, okay, really? Okay, fine." And there was some energy left in the tank, and so I said, "Okay, let's do the marathon." And so for me, I'm kind of a guy who gets bored, and that's a good thing. I think it's I personally think it's a good thing for me because my boredom spurs me into action. And I think running was also the same thing. So hey, yeah, running marathon sounds cool. It's a people do it, and so sounds like a fun thing to do. So I didn't know much about how much suffering was involved in. it was just the fun part that provoked the idea. And so yeah, so signed up for the half marathon with full marathon in Little Rock. And of course, the good thing is those days you had the books, Hal Higdon. I used the Hal Higdon training plan and just went by the book in terms of the miles and volumes and stuff. I remember, first time I ran the 10-mile run, it's like, wow, I could run 10 miles, right? And so we progressed using that plan. And interesting story on my first marathon, 2 weeks before the marathon event itself, this was like in 2008, I fell sick. I caught the flu, right? This was it was in winter. So I caught flu, was terribly sick. Of course, part of the reason was training, and because the body was not used to that volume of running, and I'd lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of weight during that training. So I was beginning to look skinny. People looked at me and said, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" and stuff like that. So I'd become weak. So paid a price, caught flu, and I was not too sure whether I would make it to the start line. And thanks to Rupa, my wife, she was a huge encouragement. She could have always said, "You know what, back off, don't take a risk." She didn't do that. She said, I was actually, about 3 days before the race, I was okay. I was out of the fever and, I was out of the flu, but I was very weak. So I wasn't too sure. And my wife said, "Hey, you know what, just go ahead and do it. What do you lose? You've trained so far. Just go take a shot." And that gave me a huge amount of confidence because with her behind me, I said, "Okay, let me go ahead and do it." And so went ahead to Little Rock. And my two girls were little at that time, and they used to be my cheerleaders too. All of them would come to the marathons. They started with Little Rock, so they all came, and we took a hotel near the course. So the plan was they would meet me during the run. That was again psychologically very helpful. So I went and did it, and it was tough. It was really tough because I was weak. And Little Rock in second half of the marathon is where the hills are. Nobody told me that, or rather, my fault. I didn't research it enough. I just went with my gut. So the first half went okay. Second half, the hills. Anyway, long story short, I finished it in some 4 or 45 minutes, and it was tough. I was cramping and stuff, but I finished it. It was huge. It was a sense of achievement because signed up for it, had a lot of obstacles, got it done. But the end of that marathon, we were in the marketplace. What do you call it? Where the previous day, right? I forget I'm losing the word for it. Expo. So at the expo, they were selling the Nashville Marathon, and I felt that right. So I was just walking by, and I felt that, hey, I'm not going to be doing my best this marathon. It's been a bummer. I got fever. Let me go sign up for Nashville. I'm going to do my better in that, right? So I signed up. It was just a spur of the moment decision. We signed up in the expo. They had a discount going, so just signed up. And that's it. And so 4:45 was the first marathon. And because of the training that was there behind, and I was healthier for the Nashville. Nashville was, I think, the same year, but a few months later. I don't know what exactly.
I think it's in April. It happened in April.
Yeah, April. Yeah. When did it, and that was like at about 4:20 or something. So that's like, wow, 20 minutes off from my first one. So so I think it was just just going out and committing to it without thinking too much, and that's how it went. And then, of course, you were a partner in crime, so it made it even more easy. You were also equally crazy as me. He said, "Chalo, let's do this." Okay, come, let's do it. So when you have two people who say, "Yeah, let's do it," it you just keep moving on. So yeah, so
those are the days.
Those are the days. Yeah. So to your question, so I guess your question was, when did it switch to just purely running to, so this is how it happened. And then soon I realized that now I'm hooked to running marathons, right? This seems to be fun. The travel part, the camaraderie, making friends. You and I used to run long runs, and we used to catch up on a lot of topics, right? From work to philosophy to politics, history. So that became fun. And so it became no more about trying to lose weight or being fit. It was more about, hey, I'm having a good time doing this, right? And then the travel to different cities was even more interesting. Saw Little Rock, then Nashville, and then we signed up for Chicago after that. I remember that was also a spur of the moment decision. You called me and said, "Hey, shall we do Chicago?" I said, "Okay, let's do it." We signed up. So it was just fun. It became fun. Yeah.
Very, very nice. And I have really fond memories of those days. So you went to Little Rock with one bug and came back with two. Right, you went with the flu bug and you came back with the marathon bug as well, right? Added to it. Correct. Wonderful, wonderful. I will not, this is, I know the private, for the audience is a private joke, but I'm not going to ask you about your experiences en route to the Nashville Marathon. Let that be a secret.
Yes, that is true.
You kind of segued into the next question I was going to ask, which is, one is running for fitness, and then it became, hey, running for achievement, right? And then you signed up Nashville because you knew you had to perform better than your first one, which you were not in your best shape. So running for speed, right? And then there's running for camaraderie. So I've seen that you paid attention to speed a little bit at the beginning, but I've not seen you as somebody who's crazy behind those numbers and always watching the clock and the splits and so on. So was that ever a motivator for you? I knew that you broke 4, which is something that I'll always aspire to do. That's amazing. But I've seen you not be very anal about those numbers. So what's your philosophy? Have you ever watched the clock at some point, and did you change into taking a more relaxed stance, or was it always this way for you?
Yeah, so I think for the Atlanta Marathon, right, which was, I think, my third or fourth, where I said, okay, let me aim for the breaking 4, trained again by the book. And those are the early days, initial enthusiasm, looking at everything from how many miles per week, cross training, rest, really going by the book. And it did get me to a level where I was fit enough to move from 420 to under 4, right? And Atlanta Marathon, again, hilly course. And we lived in Memphis those days, and Memphis is not very hilly, but it's got a few rolling hills. But Atlanta is really hilly course. And so my last couple of miles was a very tough to keep pace to finish 4. But I want to thank pacers, right? Because the pacers in these marathons do a great work. They're volunteers. They do it out of pure selfless interest to get people across the finish line. So our pacer was, I just ran with the pacer, and I remember the last mile was so tough, and she kept saying, she just kept saying, give me words of encouragement, right? She said, just shuffle, don't run, just keep moving. And there was the last half mile of Atlanta, there was a hill. Oh my gosh, that was tough. But a long story short, we made that happen. It was great. And then we got into India Fest and all that year, right? And there was not much running. And then happened the Dayton Marathon. And Dayton Marathon, I just trained very, very minimally, but I went and broke 4, which I surprised myself with that. So to answer your question, I got complacent after that. I got happy. And thing is, it takes something to keep pushing. And as you know, at our job at work, you're already in a sport. I've been in sales. In corporate world, sales is nothing but a sport again. You have a score to meet. You're already playing games at work. So I have no depth of that at work, right? So then running kind of became an escape from that world of numbers and goals and how many, what's your pipeline. I said I want to get away from all of that and use running as more of getting away from that and finding myself. So that was where it shifted, because I just stopped enjoying this obsession with numbers, because getting getting better at speed is a number game, right?
Right.
So that's what happened for me, and then it kind of then I it became more of, I'm going to do my best in the race. I did not stop being competitive, to be completely honest with you, but I wouldn't be openly competitive about something, because I didn't want to say, hey, I'll do 3 hour 50 and then get stuck with it, my life becoming about that. Instead, I'm going to implicitly train to do my best and then go out and do my best. I'll take what I get. So that's what happened in that
Got it.
whole principle.
Got it. No, makes sense. And then, the key to longevity in running is that, if it's always about reducing the time, then at some point, your age, your body has to keep pace, and then you got to adjust your goals, and that doesn't feel good. But if you're doing it for the experience, doing it for how it makes you feel, there is no end to that, right? So that's sustainable. So that's awesome. Now, I remember that you also started doing different kinds of running at that point, right? I know that you ventured into trail runs. You did ultras, right? A couple of ultras. And I know that you still continue to find ways to do some of that, right? I remember you did a 50K sometime later. So, talk to us about the drivers for branching out into those different types of running. Is it the crowd? Is it different kinds of people you meet? What was the driver?
Right. So, I think as I think about more and more about myself, I realize that boredom works in my favor. So again, it was the same thing. I used to read about people who do ultras and running trails, and I was getting bored of the road scene, and I said, "Oh, that sounds great! Like sounds cool." It was just cool to see people put all those hydration packs and do those long runs in the forest. They used to look so different. They used to look so enlightened in a way, for a lack of a better word, relaxed, happy. Whereas road runners were always stressed. I found, oh, PR, I got to do PR, I got to get faster, I got to do this. Like, man, that sounds good. So let's me go explore that, right? So that's how trail running happened, and of course, trail running was different. The skills are a little different because there are routes, and you're also running in the wild. So you're running with wet, trails. So I realized that when you're running trails, at least for me personally, I had to let go of a lot of inhibitions. So, for example, I remember running on the Shelby Park, right? There would be trails which would be fully wet, and we would have signed up in this race, and you got to run through it. Initially, I would try to avoid it and go around it. Later, I said, forget it. I'm just going to run through it. So it was all splashing all over you, and dirt and clay all over you. But hey, that was freedom. For me, it was like, wow, that felt good. Then you would cross streams, and this is Tennessee, Memphis, right? And there are streams. You got to cross those streams. Sometimes the streams would be full up till here because of the rains. I just felt uninhibited, right? I suddenly had to give up all those adult baggage that I had collected, trying to, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do this. I just felt free. So that felt awesome, just freeing from that. The second aspect was also that it was a strong workout, because you have a lot of ups and downs. It's working your quads a lot more. You run slow, but the use of your musculature in the body is different from road running. So it was definitely also challenging physically. And also made some good friends in the process who also were, that's how I ended up signing up for the Sycamore 50K and the Mississippi 50K. Those are very common races in the Memphis area runners, right? So that's how the segue into trail happened. And it's still the same, even today, I get bored of road, I go out on the trails, run trails. So it's just mixing it up, making life interesting. That's more of that.
No, I can relate, and if I think about you as a big city marathon runner versus running in the woods with a bunch of close bunch of friends slash associates, I associate you with the latter nowadays, right? Now I mean, imagine the experience of waiting 26 minutes for your corral to start moving, right? Versus just everybody just informally say, okay, go, and that's it, and
Yeah,
they start running in
yeah.
the woods, 50K, no ceremony, no nothing, just one with nature. So I can see you being attracted to something like that. Now I know that you had a quick related question, I guess. You also did some amount of biking. I remember you bought a decent bike at some
Yeah.
point, and I know you did an episode with Sriram where you spoke about biking, and he being the serious guy, but you did your share of biking as well.
Yeah.
Was that just a cross training thing? Was it just curiosity, your boredom showing up again? What was that?
Cycling. Cycling happened again accidentally, and I got injured while running. I had a calf muscle injury, and I was, getting restless actually, and not being able to run. And I think boredom and restlessness is another thing that works in my favor. So I'm a restless guy, very restless person. So cycling was a good alternative because again, I'd seen Sriram cycling, I'd heard about his stories. It sounded cool, the kind of stuff they were doing. So I said, hey, why don't I say go into that and try that just for the heck of it. And Memphis again had a good cycling community, and there was the Memphis cycling tailors. I forget, I'm losing the word, but there was a group that used to train together. So I joined them. I did the MS 150. I decided to do MS
Nice.
150 and events. And I also found that signing up for events is a great way for me personally to stay, because I'm the kind of guy who gets bored and restless and commits to things because that sounds good. But I also lose interest pretty fast because of that, right? And I realized that the only way to keep it going is to sign up for an event, because I also know that I have a big enough ego that if I sign up and if I don't do it, and if somebody says, "What man, you signed up, you didn't do," it's not. I don't like that. So I know that works against me. So I just sign up for an event. It's an ego trip, but it serves me, right? So events help me a lot. So MS 150, I sign up, right, and then go train. Uh, Again, getting up in the morning, going for those long rides, no excuses. Same thing, the 100-mile race end of the year in Memphis happens, right? The Century Ride. So I signed up for that, trained for that. So that works. So I mean, long story short, for me, what I've realized is, for me, I can say, and I think it can be applied to anybody, is if you understand your own triggers, you can hack yourself, right? Find hacks, but find hacks that serve you, and then that's it, and then keep moving forward. So that these are things work for me at least.
It's a very nice tip. Find a way to hack yourself so that you get yourself to behave in a certain way and form certain habits. So that's great. Now you mentioned about the fact that it started as an accident because of injury, and I remember that if I think about the last 15 years or whatever that I know you've been running, I hardly remember too often that you got injured. Right? I remember this run one, so the biking one distinctly. I remember you used to do some pool running at some point, and I think that was also related to injury. But other than that, you've been fairly injury free, and touch wood. Right? So any special routines you follow? Anything that keeps you keeps you resilient? Any tips for runners out there?
Yeah. So I've not had any major injuries, and I think I do. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that the biomechanics that I've inherited at the outset is supportive of my running. But I think there are a few things that I believe I do, and I think are important in some of the injury prevention. Is one is those simple core exercises one can do at home, and if you can go to the gym and spend a couple of days in the week, do strength training, nothing like it. But if you're a busy professional, if you're traveling, and if you're in a hotel all the time, there are simple exercises that you can do to strengthen your glutes, which is your butt muscle, which is one of the core important muscle that help in training, running, right? The second is your quads and your hamstrings. So these three are important muscles. If they don't do their jobs, they tend to pass on the effort to the weaker muscles like the knees and ankles, and that's when you end up having those pains and injuries. So one of these three big muscles, and of course your abs is another important muscle. So I believe there are these three or four core muscle groups that one must continue to take care of, strengthen, so that they continue to serve you in your running endeavors, right? So that's something I've been doing. I do things like a single-legged stand. But like, for example, if I'm on an email or talking to somebody, and people like my kids make fun of me. My wife makes fun of me. Like, this guy is always doing some funny exercises all the time. And these are not, again, I believe it's, you can just incorporate it in your daily life. So when you're cooking or if you're just on an email, you can be on your single leg for 30 seconds. You don't even realize it. Or sitting on against the wall, right? That exercise where you strengthen your quads. You can do that replying an email. So that's the way I kind of hack it to make it effortless, because you got to get it done. If you can go to the gym, perfect. But so that to me is very important. Core strength training is very important. The second aspect, I think, is also being able to get rest. And I think this is a common knowledge. Anybody will say that in terms of being able to. I think Joel was on the show on this one. He made an important comment. He said you can be cyclical. You can do periodization of your training. So you can periodize monthly. You can do even yearly periodization. So you can have a tough year, high-end training, and then take 6 months off and do easy things. So there are different ways to do it, but giving body enough rest to recover and then getting back into action. So those are common things that most runners will tell you, and I just pretty much agree with that and do the same thing.
No, what I like about what you said is it's all practical, right? And it's not mumbo jumbo, nothing fancy. You don't have to take time out to do it. And what I especially like is how the message on incorporating these things in your everyday life, because that's what makes it practical. And runners have this, I won't say appetite for punishment, but if they're doing something hard and they find that they're experiencing that difficulty, they know internally that they're doing something good because it's helping them in some way. So if you're doing a single leg stance and it starts burning, hey, I'm doing something good, right? So that's really nice tips. Now I know that you also had, or maybe continue to have, a particular diet that you follow, right? I remember a couple of years back when we met, you were deep into paleo diets. So can you throw some light on that? What it is, what the benefits were supposed to be? Did you experience them? Do you still continue it? Just a couple of minutes of walkthrough on that.
Sure. So look, I think nutrition back then, I think when we all started running, nutrition was an evolving science, I guess. And there was no social media. There was nothing. We used to have to read books and learn. And so things have changed now, right? It's the explosion of information on nutrition. There's, you can Google and can find 5 different opinions on every method and framework of eating. So things have changed since then. But back then it was a discovery, right, about what works and what doesn't work. So initially when we started, carbo loading was the thing, right? It was a pre-race ritual, right? I used to remember it was such a thing that previous day we would actually determine which restaurant we're going to meet and how much pasta we're going to eat. It was fun days. But that was it. That was all about pasta and carbohydrates. And as 4 or 5 years later, people started talking about keto and paleo, and people started talking. Talking about not having to have too much sugar in your diet, and instead replace it with complex carbohydrates or natural carbohydrates, and then or lessen carbohydrates and have more fat. So, look, I think, as I said, restless and boredom spurs me to try new things.
I see a theme.
You see a theme, right? So I see something, I say, oh, paleo, okay, let's go try it, right? And so for me now, after all these years of playing, first of all, good or bad, I also don't get identified with anything too long. I play with it, enjoy it, and it moves on. a few things that I identify myself with, and most others are very fleeting. So I take what I got from paleo. I learned a few things. So I learned that, hey, okay, eat natural food, eat like your ancestors. Now, I don't know about my ancestors, how they ate, but in general, the theory is that ancestors ate, they were hunter gatherers, and they would eat, certain types of carbohydrates that you find in the wild. You would eat meats, you will eat all organs of an animal. I know you're a vegan, so you may be even squirming at what I'm saying, but but that but that was the takeaway. So eat natural was a takeaway. And then you had keto. Then I tried keto for some time. So because I reached a point where I was not losing weight in spite of all the running, and I found that, okay, maybe try cutting back on carbs. Maybe my body's got so used to certain activity, and that it doesn't anymore recognize that it has to consume more calories to stay alive. So it's been so I said, let me try cutting out carbs and get into keto. So we tried that. It worked. We lost some weight. Both Rupa and I both. She's always a partner in crime whenever I try new things. So she jumped into it, and it worked again. What did we learn? Hey, fat is important, right? Till then, there was this whole myth around fat is bad, and now there is so much publications, scientific articles out there which proves that good fats are essential for human function, right? Your certain hormones, enzymatic actions in the body, immunity, brain function, all these require good fats. So hey, voila, coconut suddenly became a mainstream thing in America, right? And you and I, we come from Kerala. Coconut is a mainstream of all foods, but there was a time in America when coconut was considered to be rich in cholesterol, so bad, and it is saturated fat. So keto taught me that fat of certain kinds are required for the body, how you can utilize it. So played around with that. And so long story short, on nutrition for me, now I'm kind of use common sense, mostly using these different principles, vegan principles or paleo principles, keto principles, take a bit of everything, but there are some common threads in all of them that bind them. While some of them are unique in their own way, but there are also common threads, which is common sense, eating a lot of greens, eating a lot of vegetables, eating a lot of natural foods, avoiding, processed foods, hydration, good fats. These are common themes no matter which system you now follow. So I think I've come to that conclusion that just use common sense based on these ideas.
No, it's nice to remain open and also pragmatic about what you follow. There's no point in being religious about any one thing, right? And it's good that you learn from every single experience, keep what you like, and throw what doesn't make sense, and move on. So that's nice. So now, all along we spoke about you, right? And about, your style of running, your style of injury prevention, your foods, right? What motivates you. So there's one other thing that always fascinated me about you and the sport of running, which is the fact that you always saw a community angle to it, right? So I remember in Memphis, again, you pointed out how us becoming a running group pushed up, your energy and motivation, and you start doing more. You joined the Memphis Runners Club, you joined the Memphis Bikers Club as well. And then when you moved to Houston, you started Mystic Milers, so which is your way of giving back. And now this channel. So let's talk about, this whole community angle, right? What do you see that, and how you see that playing in? How do you see that being important for you? And increasingly over the last few years, your angle of the community thing being that you give as opposed to get, right? So speak to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think I enjoy being with people. I think people energize me. So it's just that I've always loved camaraderie. I like to party hard. So that's me. But I think what I also realized was part of one's growing up and learning, reading, doing transformational programs, one also realizes that you can't just sit back and complain in life, right? The world is the way it is. There's 7 billion human beings. There are like what, 230 countries, thousands, many religions. And if you open the newspaper, you have all kinds of things happening. And you sometimes feel like a victim. I personally have felt like a victim and saying, hey, I'm not able to help in any of these situations. Things are happening and I'm just there. So I asked myself, so is there something I can do to contribute meaningfully to the world around me using my own strengths and experiences, right? So one is, of course, I come from a corporate background. I'm from sales marketing background. So yeah, I don't have a fear of approaching people, pitching to people, selling ideas. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with organizing. I love it, right? We do that at work, so I can. So, and then I love running, and I also love the pursuit of spiritual pursuit. When I say spiritual, I don't mean it like a religious way, but I mean it like, if you look at the world, I think whether you look at Buddhism or you look at any forms of Hinduism, or if you form Christianity, whatever, if you look at Christianity, any major religions in the world, they all are trying to solve one problem, which is humans, no matter what, are not able to be happy and joyful. Right? That's how each of those religious people, religions, and the founders of the religion started the movement to make people happy. Right? I find running does that. Right? I find that running, you meet runners or hikers alike, or endurance sports. You find people in general are very happy at the end of that activity. They go back to work. They're available in the families a lot better. I said, hey, that's a resource I have too, right? So maybe I can package all this and just take that back to the community and get as many people try it out. And maybe that will bring joy to their lives, just like it is for me. It's not like the problems are going to go away. You're still going to have personal issues. You're still going to have parental challenges. You're still going to have job issues. Those are part of life. But if there is a tool like being fit, pursuit of fitness, pursuit of running or cycling or whatever of your choice, if that empowers you and you are a better version of yourself dealing with those issues that you have no control on, then I think we are making a better society. So that's what kind of motivate. That's my why. I truly believe that anything of that kind that can enable and uplift all of us must get amplified. And for me, it's running because that's what I know, right? For somebody else, it could be something else. There are a lot of people organizing and trying to make a difference to this world. So I just want to be counted among those who's trying to make a difference to this world. That's how it's all started, the community angle, right? And it just gives me joy. It just gives me joy. Even one person comes back and says, hey, you know what? I never thought that I could run 5 kilometers. Forget about a mile, right? When people come back and say I did a half marathon and thanks. Like, yeah, that's just priceless, I would say, to know that, yes, someone who didn't believe they could do it are willing to do that. And then they can take it back to something else in their lives. Maybe it's a business or it could be something else. And then say, wow, if I can replicate that same mindset back into some other project in your life, you have a win-win. So, right? So that's what drives me.
That's really, really awesome. The whole idea of dropping a pebble in the pond and seeing how far the ripples go, right?
Yeah.
And being intentional about it. I like your message about knowing one's strengths and how you enumerated your 3 or 4 different strengths that you've gathered over your life and how they converge in this hobby / passion of yours. It's really great. And we've seen the results because, what I heard about Mystic Mila's last, how the tribe has grown and how many people got off their couches, did their first 5Ks, did their first half marathons. I know you had your first guest on this program who did ultras, right? Eventually. So that's you make an incredible difference. That's really wonderful. You also answered another question that I was going to ask you, which is, hey, how come there is always a mysticism involved in some of the names that you have? You have Mystic Milers and you have Run Yogi, and I get it now. It makes total sense. Now I want to spend some time on Run Yogi Diaries itself, right? I mean, this started as in a relatively smaller way, about 6 months back, roughly,
Yep.
and you now have had 30 plus guests. You started off with regular people, everyday people like me, and then you graduated to getting some luminaries on your show, right? People who have accomplished things that a very very small percentage of the people, or hardly single digit number of people achieve, right? People who climbed Everest, and people who crossed oceans, and people who ran unbelievable distances. So in a very short time, this has clearly evolved, right? Was this planned? Is this or is this happening organically? And where do you see this going? Right? Do you have any vision of where you want to take this, or you just want to go with the flow? Talk to us about RunYogi Diaries.
Yeah, thank you. No, so RunYogi Diaries, again, actually coming back to even Mystic Milers also, right? It's again, I'm beginning to see a pattern as I speak. Boredom and restlessness serves me. So Mystic Milers also was something like that. I was getting saturated in my own running journey, and I wanted to see what can I do to spike it. I said, okay, let me create a community, and I had some good friends in the local temple community who were very supportive. I reached out to them, it worked out. And same with RunYogi Diaries, pandemic hit and races were cancelled. We all have a traveling job. And I used to spend 35% of my time on the plane, on travel, which meant that I have 35% more of time at hand, right? And so I was asking myself, how can I, again, coming back to, I don't want to be a victim of this circumstance. Yes, pandemic hit, it's all doom and gloom. Luckily, digital technology has evolved. It was just great timing. And we are in the technology area. We understand how digital transformation is happening. I said, hey, something was all working around that. And one of the things that I realized was that a lot of people I speak to who are in the running community or the endurance running community have some great story. They have a personal story. And nobody knows about it, right? So there's a friend of mine who recently I was talking, she has gone through so many physical ailments, but she continues to run. She's so positive. You cannot meet her and ever figure that she's suffering in different ways. She's very positive, very, very, she runs marathons. She's very positive as a human being. She's very positive. I was like, wow, there is a pattern here. There are everyone seems to have a story. And they use running and endurance sports to test that mindset that they're not stopped no matter what life throws at them, right? So I said that's a story to be told, right? And so that's how it started. And Araj was my first guest. He's a classic example. When we started a running club when I was with Emphasis here locally, we were colleagues, and he was not a runner. I remember the first initial part of his running, he used to struggle with leg pain and knee pain, and then suddenly in a matter of 3-4 years, the guy is like doing PRs in marathons, and he completed a 50-miler. Amazing story, right? And so I said, let's start over there. So we'll start with telling his story, and then you and I spoke. So the first few guests were obviously folks who trusted me with their time, and I'm very thankful for that. You, Sriram, Araj, who took a risk, I would say, and put yourself out there, and so it kind of evolved. So what happens is once you have 4 or 5 behind, and people see that interview, then you can go and talk to others and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and that's how it happened. And sales background, so I don't have a problem cold calling. And so I've cold called a lot of these folks. But I think, again, coming back to being from a sales background, I think I know how to structure a message, a message that is inviting enough, makes sense to other person. So I think one led to another, and I'm glad, I'm thankful to all those folks who agreed. And like you said, they're all extremely accomplished people. For most parts, it's still the show is really about regular folks um, on an extraordinary journey. When I say extraordinary, sometimes people think, oh my God, no, I mean, I'm not gone to Mount Everest. Maybe not. But like there's a guy that I came across and he's agreed to be on the show. He deals with MS and he just
Oh,
completed his 100 miler. He's a regular guy, regular job, day to day, next door neighbor. But they're all using endurance and running to transform their lives. So the Run Yogi Diary is still committed to that as a fundamental objective. But every now and then, I do have had through the network. So I speak to someone and they say, hey, there's this person you should speak to. And that's how some of the, like for example, Lauren, she's a professional. She's going to compete in the Olympics next year. Very
wow.
humbled, yeah, so very humbled for her to be, because Joel kind of introduced me saying, hey, your show is great, I enjoyed it, talk to Lauren. So every person who comes on the show who likes the show say makes the recommendation, and then like you made some recommendations. So that's how it's worked. That's how the word has spread, and that's how the guests have agreed to be on the show.
Got it. No, this I would have to say that what you've built is amazing. And now, of all the different community accomplishments, the reason I single this out as something unique is because this is going to outlive everything, right? Because once something is on the internet, it's there, and it's cumulative. So it's like compound interest, right? Once you have to start the journey somewhere. You started small, but whatever you put in there stays there and is
Mhm.
available forever. And then you have, as you build upon it, you just get better and better and better. And people, as they discover your channel, they find that there's such a wealth of information and interviews and profiles available for them to binge watch, right? So
Yeah.
good luck on making this much bigger in the coming year. I know that with the kind of talent and kind of people that you're attracting now, it's going to be multiplying very soon. Now I
Thank
know
you.
we have spoken for about 45 minutes, and if you have time, I would like to squeeze in two more things.
Sure, go ahead.
Um, One, I always see you putting pictures of you running with Betty, your dog, and I find it cute. It's amazing. I have tried to run with Neo. He's fast, but somehow, the cadence doesn't quite match. Right? He wants to go sniff something, or he wants to poop at the wrong, you know, and most of the times he's running way ahead of me, and he's kind of pulling me. So I have not found that, and I love walking with him, but I've not found that running as a unit works for me. But you clearly seem to have found your stride with Betty, right? You go on 5, 8 mile runs, and she's right alongside you. So talk to me about running with her. And I'm sure there's a lot of pet owners out there, even people who don't run. Maybe this is a great way to start, right? Just
Yeah.
joint exercise with your pet. Maybe a minute or two on that will be nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes the great. So I think first of all, dog personalities probably is a factor. Betty is she loves running. It's just I don't think I'm doing anything special with her. The only thing I do is I do use the gentle leader initially. I used it initially because when she was much younger, she would do the same thing. She would pull and be distracted, and then I discovered gentle leader. It's just that thing is like a thing that sits on the nose, so tends to discourage her from pulling. And then over a period of time she learned to just be in rhythm in the run, and now she zones out too. She just gets into a zone and runs. And so that's Betty. So she's just a dog that enjoys that. I mean, every time I get dressed to run, no matter where she's in the house, she'll be there, ready to looking at me, say, please take me. And there are times, there are days where I would have thought I want to go run alone, I don't want to take Betty with me. But just looking at her coming and sitting in front of me with that eyes requesting me to just take her, I have 8 out of 10 times always run with her at least a mile, if not more. But she's getting old now. I mean, initially she used to run 6, 7, 8 miles, but now 2 to 3 miles she's good for her. I don't push it beyond that for her. So it's really that. I personally am not a expert in it. I've just had one dog, but I guess I used to listen to Cesar Millan. Cesar Millan is a guy from whom I learned about anything about dogs, because I've never had a dog before, Betty, and so he was all about how to create that energy between you and the dog, where he's in sync with you and all that. And I guess that's he's probably the right guy to ask that. Ask how to get Neo to get in rhythm with you. I'm no expert.
It's probably me, because he can do some serious running. But I always find it cute to see your and Betty's pictures and your posts about how you have a fellow run yogi at home. So that's nice. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I'd like to do something with you that you've done with a few of your other guests. A surprise lightning round. Well, just simple questions. Top of the mind answers, 3 or 4 of them, just for fun. Sure. So, what's your favorite shoe? Running shoe?
I've been with Brooks for the last 12 years. I rotate shoes. I have multiple brands that I use, but Brooks has been my, like the Camry, so it's a reliable workhorse. So yeah, I would say Brooks is my favorite brand in that sense. And Brooks didn't pay me to say this.
But I hope they're listening now. Well, wish your channel all the luck in such a way that they want to pay you next year. Your favorite race?
You mean like so far, right?
Yeah, so far.
I mean, definitely the Sillamore was a amazing race. More just from a perspective of took the runners into some really deep mountains and streams. It was really beautiful in that sense. So am I allowed to only pick one, or
suit yourself? If you have a couple more to add, sure.
So yes, Sillamore definitely is one of my favorites. The San Francisco Marathon is also special because it was just amazing to run under the Golden Gate Bridge, and they just shut the traffic off, and you get to run on the Golden Gate Bridge. It was an amazing. Personally, I just loved that experience of running the Golden Gate Bridge. So that is another.
Nice. So you picked a one big city one, and you picked a trail. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your favorite runner? I mean, your favorite running celebrity?
I would say right now it's Eliud Kipchoge.
He's the ultimate run yogi.
He's a monk. His energy, what he's doing on the race, trying to beat the 2 hours, is one thing, of course. But listening to him is such a simple, joyful individual, and he's a monk. I always feel like he's a monk in his mindset. So he's definitely one of my favorites. Yeah.
Mine too. Zen runner, totally.
Yeah, Zen runner.
And if you had to pick, and this is not a question about a race, but your most memorable run, a run that you will always remember. Do you have any that stand out?
Definitely one. Last year was, I think, for the first time, Rupa and I ran a race together for the first time. I've been running for so many years, but both of us have never run a race. So last year we ran a half marathon together. That was special. So that was something very memorable. Yeah. So something different. Yeah, I would say I would pick that for today at least.
Cool. Very cool. Nice. So Santosh, I know it's been a super entertaining, very informative, fun 45 minutes. It's good to see. It's good to peek into the mind of the creator of the show and understand what drives you. And very clearly, you this is a passion project for you, right? Very clearly, this is something that you enjoy, you do yourself, and you've got a wealth of information to offer. So I'm so glad that we did this. Wishing you the very best for the continued success of your show, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and to everyone who's watching. And if you would like to conclude the show like a host as always, I give it back to you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No, absolutely. Thanks. I think it was great speaking with you as always. Whether in the show or off the show, I always love speaking with you. And I think from both our sides, I want to wish everybody a happy new year, because by the time the show airs, it'll be 2021. And wishing everyone, a happy new year, fantastic 2021, and hopefully 2021 brings success, dreams coming true, right? So that's definitely a wish from my side, both our side, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you, Santosh. And I look forward to next Saturday when I can watch your next episode.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.